Well, good morning, everybody. I am Stephanie Dahl, and I'm one of the co-owners here at Dahl Fisher, and I am an estate planning attorney and business law attorney. And so today I have an amazing guest with me, Jim Malloy. He is with Waddell and Reed. He is a financial planner. And so, Jimmy, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, Stephanie, thanks for reaching out, and good morning to everybody.
Well, Jimmy, tell us a little bit about you, what you do. I know I said you're a financial planner, but what does that mean, and how do you help your clients?
So thanks, Stephanie. So I run a financial service practice here in the Denver metro area. My broker dealer is Waddell and Reed, and I do comprehensive financial planning. So I look at all six aspects of what goes into building a financial plan, right? So it is, cash flow, looking at risk management for insurance, investments. We look at, tax mitigation, right? How can we reduce your taxes today as well as out into the future? We're not CPAs, we're not doing your taxes. But then we also look at retirement planning. And then when you get to the end, working with you, Stephanie, for building the estate plans.
Absolutely. Okay. So pretty, like when you're looking at everything, it's just kind of a whole picture so that you make sure you take care of all aspects of someone's life.
Exactly.
Kind of all the way through.
And, now is a great time because, since we got hit with this virus and everybody, the world has stopped on its axis, right? For a lot of people, they might have had real strong investment portfolios. And one of the things as a financial planner that I always work with clients on is making sure that they have cash reserves set aside, right? We always want to be able to, maintain a certain level of that so that when life throws us a curveball, which just happened, are we prepared for that? Nobody could have prepared for this, but having, some cash reserves set aside helps us to manage better, which also helps with our mental stability, right? Because here's the truth. Even if you had a great portfolio and it was doing really well, which a lot of portfolios were before this virus hit, once it did, if you didn't have the proper cash reserves or had any cash reserves, what are you now doing? You're now tapping into your investment portfolios that were really earmarked for something else. But times, if that's all you have, that's it. But this is a great time to go in, planning for the future. Hindsight's 2020, but how do we look going forward to try to make sure we start putting some things in place for when the next curveball comes at us, and it will.
Well, and I think you bring up a really good point. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and the gentleman was talking about through his businesses, he's sat through multiple kind of these events, right? Recessions or what you have. And he talked about, the first one he went through, he was like, I just felt like I had to grin and bear it, right? I just had to get through it. And he's like, and what I realized is I need to figure out how to thrive through it. And that's very difficult. And what that means for people is different for every person. But,
Exactly.
What he talked about is like, I need to have a plan, because whether it is, we've gone through the internet bubble, we've gone through the housing crisis, now we're going through COVID-19. We know the next thing will come. We don't know when, we don't know what it will be, but we know the next thing will come. And I think one of the things that this has really taught, for me anyway, is, the importance of that kind of preparation of having, right, as you said, these 6 things, but like having all of them in place now. And I may not be fully prepared, but at least starting to get prepared for each one of those, to have those cash reserves on hand, to have investments, because you don't want to have to liquidate right now when everything's down, right?
Exactly.
And so having those things, having my estate plan in place, having all of those so that while we know it's coming, you can weather that storm as best as possible.
Exactly. And you bring up a good point. You're not going to have everything so buttoned up, moving forward, but just start like planning as we move ahead. Because the truth is, when we look back historically, there's been a lot of things, right? We've had, I believe, since 1980, 12 kind of pandemics, if you will. And in each one of those cases, the markets took a hit and went down, but at the same time, the recoveries have been quite strong. So historically, we know that the markets most likely will recover. Can't say I guarantee that or anything like that, but when we look back, that's been the case. And that most likely will be the case here. Whether we have a V-shaped rocket up or a little bit of a U-shape where it takes a little bit longer, most likely everything will come back. But being able as individuals, and this is what I've been talking to a lot of clients and prospective clients, this has just been, this happened and we don't know what the next one will look like. But one of the great benefits of having a financial plan in place is it allows you to navigate through that. Because just take what's going on. This isn't comfortable for anybody. But if you had certain things in place and you were on the road, even though it's uncomfortable, long term, you're like, I'm kind of set up to, weather this storm and then prepare for the next one. Because, when you look at it historically, the markets are going to go up and down. We're going to have, good economies, bad economies, but planning and having things in place so that when those times come, that you're able to weather that storm, that peace of mind is priceless, quite honestly.
Oh, absolutely. And it allows you to, I think, proceed with a clearer head, because I think we've all been in situations where, it's those basic needs of survival. How am I going to pay my mortgage or my rent? How am I going to take care of my children? How am I going to put food on the table? If you've been in those situations, it's very hard to be like, well, in 90 days, here's right, because you're just surviving from one day to the next. And everyone can have varying degrees of that based on what they're going through. But really, it comes down to the more prepared you are, the more you can say, I can weather the storm. It's fine. What do the next 90 days look like? What do the next 9 months look like? 9 years? And you can start to look out further. So,
and I think, when we have something like this happen, a life event of this magnitude, right, it really gets us all to kind of take a step back and think, wow, because when times are good, we don't think about ever losing our job, right? But are we really saving enough? And when we have something like this, it brings that all back into perspective. Another thing, we have a lot of people that have been displaced from work, right? It's in the millions. I think the last number I saw was, between 22 and 26 million Americans right now have been displaced from work. And what hasn't really been talked about is how many of those people have lost their health care. How many of them, now because what their life insurance was really just through their work. And yes, I do realize hopefully a lot of those people will go back and those benefits are restored. But when things like this happen, not everybody will. So there will be some people, that, quite frankly, won't be able to go back. But realizing, yes, it's great that some of these benefits are offered through a company or an organization. But when you look at, looking at your complete financial health, and I talked earlier about that risk mitigation, making sure we have the proper protection. If something happens to your employment, are you able to, is your insurance portable? And if not, do you have something set up for yourself for, God forbid, something happens that your family would still be taken care of in the event of a job loss?
Absolutely. And it really is important because I think sometimes you get these benefits through work, you get all these things, and it just doesn't occur to you because, and I'm just as guilty of this as a lot of people, is that I never think anything bad will happen, right? It's that invincibility. And, we joke about, teenagers thinking they're invincible, but I think we all do until we're faced with something that causes us to think about that. And so to really sit down and say, and meet with, a financial planner and say, what do I have, right? What do I have here? What benefits do I have if I lost this job? What goes with me? What doesn't go with me? Is this enough to take care of my family? Is this enough that if I got sick and couldn't work, do I have disability? Do I have all of these different things that kind of I'm preparing, right? That's kind of the goal, is to be prepared. We hope none of these things happen, but in the event they do, we're ready to go, and it won't be a catastrophic devastation to your family and your family's finances.
It's interesting because a lot of people, when I talk about estate planning, right, and which is what you do, everybody thinks, oh, when I'm older, that's for when, that's down the road. I'm in my 20s or 30s and I have a family. And once again, because of this pandemic and what's happened, it has brought to light, like, say, you're in your 30s and you're single and you're making okay money, right? You're doing okay. You got some things in the bank, but, happens that you got sick and maybe you went into the hospital, but your rent or mortgage is still due.
Right.
And now it can't be paid. I talk to clients all the time. It's not about how old you are, but when I talk about estate planning, making sure somebody, does somebody have medical power of attorney? Does somebody have financial power of attorney? Not that you're giving over and they see everything and they have access to your bank account, but here you had a life event happen and somebody's able to step in briefly so that you don't lose your mortgage. Your credit rating doesn't get trashed and when you're building all this for your future. And that is so important that they're working with an estate attorney, such as yourself, to make sure those things, even when you're in your 20s and 30s, that you have some of these things in place. That's the value of a financial plan, looking at all those. If something happens, are there beneficiaries, right? Because if your state, if there's no beneficiary, it gets very expensive. Yes, your money will get distributed, but as the state sees, and you still have to hire an attorney, and it's less expensive to hire you today than after the fact. That's what I always try to tell clients.
I know, and I agree, it is. And unfortunately, and you've heard me say this, Jimmy, but right, one of the problems is that you don't need me until you need me, and then it's too late, right? And so we can't put the documents together after the fact. Then we have to go through the courts, we have to involve them, and it's really expensive versus having the documents ready to go, put in place, and we can kind of not even miss a beat and help and start cleaning up, what's happening. So absolutely, it's really about being prepared. So what are you seeing now with your clients? What are you advising them of in a general, obviously not financial advising, but just in a general scheme? What are you telling your clients right now?
The biggest thing, the conversations that I've had since the beginning of this and continue to have today, a lot of it is checking in, making sure, checking to see where are they, how are they doing? Are they feeling okay? Are there things that they would like for us to take a look at? Reassuring them that, the plan that we have in place, yes, everybody has been affected by this, but we're still in good shape. Things are still kind of, when I say on track, things are moving the way they're supposed to. And nobody has, clarity as to what the markets will do, whether it's 3 months, 6 months and all that.
Right.
But the reality for most of my clients and for a lot of people is we will recover from this and we have time. So try not to make decisions based in fear without talking to somebody. The biggest thing that I communicate to clients is there are people around, you have access to these resources. If, don't just, watch the news, think it's Armageddon, and then make decisions without talking to somebody and then realize probably not the best move. I just really want clients to know that we are here. I don't have a crystal ball that I see into the future, but because of the planning that we've done and will continue to do, we have the ability to manage through this based on the information that we have. And we will get through this together. So, once again, some people are, and you mentioned this earlier, we're not all in the same boat. It's a storm, but we're all in different boats. And it's important that we recognize when I'm talking to a client, what does their boat look like? I just don't do a broad assumption and say, well, everybody's struggling, just buck up, it'll get better. The sun's coming out. It's really listening to your clients, getting an understanding, what's going on for them, and seeing if there's anything that we can do to help go through this process together, and that's the most important thing. I think people need to be heard and understood. And I have to be careful, as I think all of us in the professional capacity, we can all say, I know this is tough, everything, blah, 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 these are challenging times, and use the same rhetoric. But the truth is, for that individual or that family or that business owner, this is new. It is uncharted territory, and everybody handles things differently. And to be able to listen, have them know that they're being understood, and then figuring out based on that situation, what are some things we can do? And that's been my daily activity for the last 6 weeks, is a lot of conversations. I think I've mentioned this to you. A lot of the clients, I personally have not had anybody really, jump off the ledge. I always say, come inside, close the window, we're going to be okay. But clients are not, they're not excited about what's happening in the markets. They're worried about their families, all of that. But at the same time, I have a sense that even though this is uncomfortable, there's a belief that this is going to pass and we're going to be okay.
Good. Well, and I'm kind of getting that same sense from my clients that I'm talking to. Jimmy, are you guys taking on new clients right now?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Funny that you should ask that. I have gotten more calls and some referrals from other clients because it is times like this, when the markets are doing well and the job and the economy, everybody's like, do I really need somebody like that? The truth is, in times like this, people are aware that, wow, I would like to talk to somebody. I would like to get some advice.
Absolutely. Well, and I think now is an excellent time to do that and to talk to someone and to figure
I
out
can
what's
do
going on.
them virtually and, answer questions for any of your clients or anybody out there that's watching this. Even if you have another advisor and you just want just another sounding board. In times like this, that's what we're here for. I am a resource. And there's a lot of me out there. There's a lot of good advisors. And I hope that the people that are listening, if you have an advisor, talk to them. Make sure that your plan is in place if there's anything you need to change. But if you don't and you have questions, there is no charge to talk. This isn't like, I really am in this time a resource, and please do not hesitate. It is not a bother for me to answer questions.
Absolutely. Well, and I really appreciate that, Jimmy. And what we'll do is we'll put your contact information in the comments below the video. So that way, if anybody wants to get a hold of you or has questions or anything, they can definitely reach out and get a hold of you. So thank you.
And thank you so much, Stephanie, for inviting me on. And, you've been, an asset to my practice. As you know, you work with a number of my clients, and I appreciate all that you've done. And I continue to value our friendship and the relationship that we've developed. But we will get through this.
Yep.
Can't tell you when. And but yeah, the good thing is surrounding my business is surrounded by people like you, because truly I want to be a resource for my clients. I do what I do, and I hopefully do it very well. But I need people like yourself and other people that we know in our network, that I can feel very confident in having my clients speak with them to help not only navigate through these waters, but through general life and what's going on with them, and having people that I can refer to. So that has been really important. I want you to know how much I appreciate that.
Oh, you're so wonderful, Jimmy. This is why I love working with you with our clients, because it's always, I absolutely adore working with you, but I know what a great job you do for your clients, and how every client is an individual to you, and you look at their entire portfolio and you really make sure that it's tailored for them specifically. It's not
Absolutely.
a one-stop cookie cutter kind of approach. And so, always adore working with you. And I just think you're so great at what you do. So thank you for giving me your time today.
Absolutely. Enjoy the day.
Thank
And we'll
you.
talk soon.
All right. Thanks, everybody.